Hi, my name is Jonathan Allen. I'll be talking to you about the Christian Worldview from the book Learning from the Stranger by author David Smith. Main points of this in chapter 2 is dealing with culture and bad breath. Cultural differences depend on perspective. Complexity of normal, what is it? Hearing difficulties that people might have. Home-tinted spectacles, what you see is not what you get. Talking past one another to be understood. And public behavior. Now, the cultural differences, depending on perspective, can come from a variety of areas. One area is the military culture, which expects teamwork and self-sacrifice. If you compare that to fund managers, their culture is to make a profit and be self-indulgent. The complexity of normal can again be seen in the military. If you just think about a soldier who gets up in a combat zone, and the first thing he does after putting on his uniform is he puts on a ballistic bulletproof vest. Then later in the day, he gets on a video conference with his wife, who's wearing normal clothing. His normal is to wear a bulletproof vest to protect himself, and usually having a weapon at his side, whereas his wife's normal is just to wear normal clothes and not to have to worry about enemies surrounding her. Hearing difficulties. The author talks about missionaries teaching converts in other countries Christian songs from the West. The question here is whether they're trying to convert them to Christ or to westernize them. And that's a critical question for missionaries to consider when they are going to go in the field. One family from a church went to the Philippines to help the local churches there to record music in the local language. This way, the people in the Philippines would feel more comfortable singing songs in their own language and to their own music as well. Talking past one another to be understood. Lang discusses a favorite part of Stephen Covey's book on 5 effective leadership habits. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Do not try to listen to answer first, but listen to understand to ensure that what you heard is what the person meant. And this will make sure that when you answer the person, that you've really truly understood what they asked or what they talked about. Next is public behavior. How would you behave in public that you were in? One example is a missionary to China named Hudson Taylor. His emphasis was to evangelize by blending in, not by trying to westernize the local natives. He wore Chinese clothing to blend in, and this helped the people feel more comfortable because he wasn't trying to change their behavior and westernize them, but he was just trying to change their lives through Christ. Next, the reader agrees with the example that the author used about the restaurant having a different cultural meaning for Americans versus Germans and Chinese. One example I have is not a restaurant example, but it's an example of when my wife went to China and she tried to get in a taxi. She found that she stood in line, other people would cut in front of her, unlike in America where people tend to wait in line on a general basis. Also, models that support this reading, Gonzalez Mendez discusses listening as an important skill. She talks about holistic listening, using all your senses and instincts, looking to see what visual cues might match the verbal language. And this will help you understand better what the person is saying if you're paying attention to all aspects of the communication. Also, Royal Ranger Training for Leaders talks about the leaders getting down to the level of the rangers so the rangers can feel like they're important. You know, a child in kindergarten is much shorter than a leader. And if you get down to their level, it's less of a fearsome thing than to have a leader staring down at you rather than having a leader staring at you in the eyes. If you look at Proverbs 18:13, it says, "If one gives an answer before he hears, it is his folly and shame." Again, it goes back to if you listen fully before you respond, then you can respond appropriately to a person's conversation. Thank you very much.